Okay, quantitative, this is lesson 3.2 notes about measures of central tendency. Now, measures of central tendency is something you've been doing since about 6th grade. Mean, median, mode, the most frequent, how many of each items in the set, that kind of thing. So, let's start talking about the mean. This is just the ordinary arithmetic average. Add them all up, divide by how many you've got, just like if you were trying to figure your grade. Okay? And then how you find that mean is you find the sum, add them all up, sum of the values, and then you divide the sum of the values by the number of values in the data set. So here's a little formula, right? So example 1. We're going to find the mean used car price and round to the nearest $10. So these are the car prices. Prices of used cars sold in Conway over the weekend. I want you to pause this video and I want you to try this because it's not hard. Add them all up. Put that number here. And then divide by how many of them are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 2. So you divide by 12 because that's the number of values. Okay, so hopefully you paused the video and added those prices of cars up. And you should have got 230,265. Then when you take that number and you divide it by 12, what we're looking at is this. We got 19188.75. And it says round it to the nearest $10. Well, that's this place right here. So I'm going to look at that 8. That's more than 5. 5 or more goes up. Less than 5 stays the same. So this answer is $19,190. That was the average or the mean cost of cars that were sold in Conway over the weekend. It's that simple. This is, the math here is 5th grade level. I added this twice to make sure I got the right number. That'd be the only thing that I caution you on. And I did use a calculator. I didn't attempt to do that by hand. Don't you go there. So that's all for the mean, just the average, okay? Then we're going to find the median. The median requires you to arrange the values in order from least to greatest, or from largest to smallest if you want to go that way. But you need them in order so you can look at the mean is the middle number. We count the number of values we have. So let's say we have 10. That's an even number. If the value is odd, we just identify the middle number. So like we had 15 numbers, the middle number would be 8. Half of 15 is 7.5. So that puts you on the 8th number. And we just identify the value in the middle. If we have an even number, if the number of values is even, then we have to find the average or the mean. I'll write both those words on here. You know, when you average two numbers, you just add them together and divide by 2. The average or the mean of the two middle values. So we go to back to example 2 to look at these car prices to find the mean. Now, I'm basically going to show you a trick, okay? We said that there was 12 car prices here. So I need the 2 in the middle, okay? Which one's the cheapest? Knock it off. Which one was the most expensive car sold over the weekend? Knock it off. Then you can go again. What's the next cheapest left? That's not knocked off. What's the next cheapest? Well, that'd be this one. And what's the next most expensive? Here. Then I'm looking at what's left. What's the cheapest one left? This one. What's the most expensive one left on here? That one there. Now what's the cheapest one left? This one. What's the most expensive one left on this list? Here. You got 4 numbers left. What's the smallest number there? This. What's the largest number? This. So these 2 that are left, I'm going to take the mean of those. I'm going to add those 2 together, 18,000 plus 19,290. Then I'm going to divide that by 2. And that's going to give me the median. So let's go back over here to this example problem right here. Find the median. So I'm adding together 18,000 on my calculator. I'm not trying to get no smarmy mouth going on. Then I got this 19,290 car. Those are the 2 middle price cars. And then I'm going to divide by 2 to find the median. It takes me longer to put it in the calculator than it does to write it down. 19,290 equals. So, the answer I got in my calculator, because I put that plus that, hit equals, and then divided by 2. Okay? Got to add those together first, then divide by 2. And I get 18,645. And that tells me what the average cost of cars, the mean, the median, the middle cost of cars that were sold over the weekend in Conway. All right, moving on to the mode. The mode is the value or values that occur most frequently. Sometimes there's not a mode. In that car price thing, there wasn't a mode because those were all different prices. So there would be no mode. Okay? We find the mode of a data set because for each value, we count the number of times the value occurs and identify the value or values that occur most frequently. It's okay to have no mode. All right? But now, let's look here. This is a set of test grades in a business class. Most frequently, what was the score made? Well, let's just start with this 76 in the front. 76. How many of them are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people made that 76. Then we can just go right in order. 83. How many of them are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. 94. How many 94s on that test? 1. Okay. How many 53s? There's 1. Is there another one? No. How about 74? We haven't counted it yet. How many of those are there? 1. How about 97? 1. 65? 1. And 77? 1. So this has 2 modes. 76 and 83. Those two grades appeared the most. Unless I miscounted. No, I didn't think I did. Anyway, that's as simple as it is. It's just about counting how many times the number appears. Okay? Now, it could get a little more complicated if you were trying to read it from a graph, but not really. Let's say you had a bar graph here, and you had, it looked kind of like this, whatever. You would want to find out how many things, like if this was 1, that was 2, 3, let's say that went up to 3, and that was 4. How many things are in each bar? So this one's got 2, this one's got 3, this one's got 4, that one's back at 3, that one's back at 2. Well, which one appears the most? That interval right there, it has the most in it. So that's simply the mode. Okay? All right. We're not going to do this, but you can try it and come back, and I'll put the answer here. Okay, so I hope you did this on your own just for a little practice. That would be the mean, the average price of homes, is how she found that number. So she added them all together, divided by the number of items there were, which was 9 houses, and then she found the mean to be the average price of houses being sold. Okay? So finally, this last thing that we're going to talk about here is, that's not the last thing. I'm sorry, this is a long lesson. Frequency distributions and how to make them. First of all, we need to identify appropriate intervals for the data. And then we tally the data for the intervals and count the tallies in each interval. Okay, let's look at the next page here. Has a chart on it. This is just a frequency distribution. How many students scored 60 to 64? That's the tally mark. 1. Because we made our intervals, we had a stack of papers we had graded, and we're just going through counting scores, okay? So it says, how many students scored 70 or above? Well, here's the 70 mark. So I have to count from here to there, or say there was 25 total students and only 2 of them didn't score that. So this is 23. How many students made A's? 90 or higher. Well, that's these last 2 categories here, or last 2 intervals. So 5 plus 2 is 7. What percent of total grades were A's? Well, we know that 7 out of 25 were A's. So if I take 7, divide it by 25, then multiply by 100, I would find that percentage. And that percentage would be 28% were A's. It's pretty good. Actually, on a class 25, having 28% A's were pretty good. Were the students prepared for the test, or was the test too hard? I don't know. Looks to me like it was pretty good. Really, if I gave that many students a test and those were the scores that came back, no F's, and a huge majority of them, 23 out of 25, made a C or better, I would say that that was a pretty good result. And then it says, what is the ratio of A's to F's? I don't even see any F's on there. So the ratio would be, there were 7 A's to 0 F's. Not doing this, example 6, not drawing this frequency table, we just need to be able to read them. Okay, we're going to use this again to be able to do other things with it. So we're going to find the mean of group data. This is group data, okay? We're going to make the frequency distribution. That's what this is. Make it. Or we're going to have it given to us, which is going to be your case. For each interval, in step 1, we're going to find the product of the midpoint of the interval and the frequency, okay? Now, I'm going to do one of those so that we can do this together. All right, let's take this first class interval, 60 to 64. What number is exactly in the middle of that? Well, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. What's right in the middle? If I just start knocking them off, bam, there's 62. So we're going to take that number and we're going to multiply by the frequency. So 62 is our middle number for this. I'm going to write it over here by the class frequency so we know what we're doing. 62 times 1 is 62. Now, mathematically, how could I find that middle number? I would add 60 plus 64, divide by 2, and I would get that 62. Okay, that's mathematically, that's another way to do it. So this is the last example that we're going to do. Why don't you take just a minute right here, pause your video, and take just a minute to find the midpoint of these intervals and write them down here beside their class frequency. Then we'll go on from there, okay? So, oops, sorry. Hopefully you did that, found those intervals. You see that little pattern going on there? 62, 67, 72, 77. Then we're going to find, after we find the interval and multiply it by the frequency. So 62 times 1, 62. 67 times 1, 67. So pause right here and continue that little exercise. Multiply the midpoint of the interval times the frequency. Okay, so all I did was multiply like 77 times 6 and write that number over here. Made a list as I went. Because the next thing I need to do is find the sum of the class frequencies and find the sum of the products from step 2. Well, they already give you the sum of the class frequencies. There's 25 of them. Then when I add these all together, I wind up with 2,070. Please put those in your calculator and check me. Then the fifth step is we're going to divide the sum of the products, that's this number, by the sum of class frequencies. That's that number. Okay? So, how do we have a formula for this. It's not crazy, but when we want the mean of group data, group mean, okay, then we sum of the midpoints multiplied by the frequency. And we divide that by the sum of the frequency. All right. You can pause if you want to, try to figure that out, come back, see the answer, or stay and watch. So taking the sum of the midpoints multiplied by the frequency right here was 2070. We're going to divide that by the sum of the frequency, which was 25. 25 students tested. We're going to divide that on a calculator because we're not going to kill ourselves today trying to do stuff. And we wind up with an answer here of 82.8. So that's the mean score for the test, right? That's the mean score. I'd say that's pretty successful. That's the mean score for that test. Okay, guys, I know there's a lot of information there, and you know I'm around. If you need to ask me any questions, you just got to come find me. Good luck.